Surging demand for artificial intelligence could create another global chip shortage. Meta makes its case for more augmented reality and virtual reality products. And OpenAI officially goes after the money. We're going to talk about those stories and more on this episode of Today in Tech. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Today in Tech. I'm Keith Shaw. The guy behind the monitors is Chris. Hello, sir.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Looking good today. And joining us again in the guest co-host chair is Jack Gold. He is the principal analyst at J. Gold Associates. Hello, Jack.
Hi, guys. Good to be here.
All right. And I still see that you have your virtual plant in the on the monitor right there.
Yeah, well, the good news is I can't kill it.
That is true. All right. So, hey, there's a lot of news that's right up your alley because I know you do a lot of semiconductor coverage and chip coverage. So I wanted to start with that from the news this week. So a surge in demand for artificial intelligence-focused semiconductors and AI-enabled smartphones and laptops could lead to the next global chip shortage, according to a report released last week by consultancy Bain & Company. The last major semiconductor shortage happened during the COVID-19 pandemic amid supply chain disruption and a rise in demand for consumer electronics as people were basically forced to stay at home and work at home. Technology giants have been snapping up graphics processing units, or GPUs, mainly from NVIDIA. These GPUs, which are housed in data centers, are critical for the training of huge AI models that underpin applications like OpenAI's ChatGPT. Meanwhile, companies like Qualcomm are designing chips that go into smartphones and personal computers, which are allowing those devices to run AI applications locally rather than via the internet connection in the cloud. These are often referred to as AI-enabled devices, and companies from Samsung to Microsoft have released such products. So Bain said that demand for GPUs and AI consumer electronics could be the cause of a chip shortage. Basically, they're saying that if you combine the growth in demand for GPUs alongside the wave of AI-enabled devices, they could accelerate PC product refresh cycles, and then, of course, you'd have constraints on semiconductor supply. However, it's unclear at this point how much demand such of these devices will have, especially the phones and the PCs particularly. So, and they also noted that the supply chain is incredibly complex, and a demand increase of about 20% or more has a high likelihood of upsetting the equilibrium and causing a chip shortage. So you cover the space more than we do here. Is this a warning shot for companies? Is this something that they need to worry about? Or is it maybe just FOMO or FUD, I guess is the term? Like, what's your thoughts on that report?
Yeah, look, a few things. Number one, I think they're raising an issue that is important to raise, but I'm not concerned about it for a couple of reasons. Number one is, yes, there is a pretty significant uptake of GPUs, especially NVIDIA devices. But in the overall scheme of things, the numbers are relatively small. I mean, you don't sell 10 million $30,000 chips, right? They just don't. It's not like a phone. It's not like a PC. So that's number one. And yes, it could get dicey to get those. And in fact, there's already been constraints on some of those. They just couldn't get enough of them. But from an overall market perspective, most of these chips are made at TSMC in Taiwan. Samsung does a bunch of them as well. The AI chipsets that they're talking about in this report for mobile devices and for PCs aren't going to change the market dynamics all that much because they're going to be replacements. They're not going to be in addition to, they're going to be instead of.
Oh, okay.
So the phone chips that go into the next generation of phones, instead of being without AI, will have AI in them, but they'll just be in the same chipset. So you're not talking about a huge.
Okay, so you're not talking about adding a chip to a phone to get those AI capabilities. It's just going to replace whatever's already in there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There's no way to add something into your phone. It's sealed.
Right.
The only way you get an upgrade is if you buy a new one.
Okay. And then on the GPU side, you think that there's just not even though there's a surge in demand, you're not going to see the numbers that you might see on the device side.
Well, it's not going to kill the whole semiconductor supply chain.
Yeah.
There might be constraints, and there already are some constraints. on getting high-end GPUs from NVIDIA because they can't produce enough of them.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean it's going to affect the rest of, the whole rest of the marketplace like it did with COVID.
Right. And so if there is a shortage, what should companies either can they prepare for something like this? Or is it more about if you're a company that needs those chips, you might want to have a second, a third, a fourth provider? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and the problem is you can't have a second or third or fourth provider because NVIDIA owns most of the market. I mean, AMD is competitive.
Yeah.
And they're starting to sell a lot of chips, but they're getting them from the same factory, basically.
Okay.
And so if the demand really goes sky high and the factory can't produce them, whether there's an NVIDIA label on it or an AMD label on it or an Intel label or anybody else's label on it, doesn't really matter. It's still coming from the same factory. Actually, the more concerning part for me is that because so many of these chips, virtually all of them, are produced in Taiwan, that if I hope it never happens, but if something happens at Taiwan, whether it's militarily or a natural disaster, the whole market is screwed.
Yeah,
basically
the geopolitical part of it is one thing, but you're right. Even a natural disaster could mean disaster in the long run too. Aren't we supposed to be building more factories in the U.S. with all of the chip stuff? Without getting political, Jack, was that a disaster or success? Like, where are all of these factories?
Well, so we got to be careful here.
Okay.
We're building more factories.
Okay.
And the investments are being made in the U.S. Intel is building new factories. TSMC is building new factories. Samsung, others. But when you put up a new factory for a new chip factory, a fab, it can take 3 to 4 years to get that fully running up. Okay. So it's not something you can just, it's not like building a house, you get it in 3 months.
Right.
We're talking about a long-term thing. So we're building them, and we're building them as fast as we can.
Okay.
But it's still going to take a while.
All right. The other story that came out in the chip space this week too was a report that Qualcomm was apparently they wanted to buy Intel. Basically, the CEO Cristiano Amon has shown interest in acquiring competitor Intel, according to a report by Reuters. In recent days, representatives of both parties reportedly met to discuss a possible takeover, but any agreement will take time to iron out. Both the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times also reported talks between Qualcomm and Intel. Exactly how Qualcomm would be able to afford Intel was unclear. The company is said to be sitting on $13 billion in cash, but Intel's market capitalization is $188 billion. So I think after this came out, I saw like 3 or 4 other video pieces on CNBC basically saying that this isn't going to happen. And I don't think you think this is going to happen either, right, Jack?
I agree. I think the chances of it happening are, I'd say, less than 10%. You never say 0, right? Because you never know. But
you're hedging your bet a little bit.
Right. But it makes no sense to me. First of all, if Qualcomm wanted some components or some parts of the Intel business, I could see that because that would be, as Wall Street says, accretive. It would help their business overall. But to acquire Intel in all of different markets that they're in, Qualcomm would never want to be in because they're just not all that profitable. I mean, look at what's going on with Intel.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
So why would a story like this then come out if most of the people that are analyzing this are saying, oh, this is probably not going to happen? Like, what? So how does this enter the media landscape?
Well, so we have to look at the practicality from a business perspective and the politics of business, if you will. I have no doubt that Qualcomm would love to buy Intel just because, the status it would give them in the marketplace. That doesn't mean that it's the right thing for them to do. I have no doubt that the CEOs are talking. I'm sure Intel's talking to a lot of different people about maybe divesting some parts of their business, some components. And so this is one of those things. First of all, it's speculation because there's no hard evidence, right? Right. So anybody can write a story. But I also have no doubt that these guys haven't been chatting. It's just, what are they chatting about? And is it practical? And does it go beyond the issue of politically it would make me look good? Financially, that's a whole other story.
Yeah. So I haven't had a chance to talk to you about this. What were some of the things that have caused Intel to be in such trouble? We don't necessarily cover a lot of the business side of things, but if you're getting to the point where you're thinking about either divesting or potential takeovers and things like that, there's a lot of stuff that happened with Intel. From your perspective, what mistakes did they make?
Well, they made a bunch. So they basically lost their edge over the last 4 or 5 years. They were complacent. They figured, we're Intel. We can't do anything bad. NVIDIA cleaned their clocks in AI.
Yep.
Qualcomm cleaned their clocks in mobile.
Yep.
They missed both of those trends. AMD got all of a sudden really, really competitive with their chips for both PCs and the data center. Something that Intel wasn't competitive enough in. And so there's a whole and then there's the whole foundry thing, right? They just didn't do a very good job of keeping their foundry. Intel used to be 2 to 3 years ahead of the market in making chips.
Okay.
They lost that. It's gone. TSMC, again, talk about cleaning their clocks. TSMC has got all that business. So those are the really big areas. Now, the problem is, how do you take an aircraft carrier and turn it around, right? It takes a long time, and that's what's going on at Intel right now.
Yeah. Can they
recoup?
Do you see that them surviving this at some point? Like, will they be all right, or will Intel, as we knew it, back in the 90s, would be gone at some point?
They're not going to be gone. Look, they still sell 80% of PC chips. If they went away, who power your PC? AMD maybe, but not. Yeah. They don't have enough of them. They still sell a ton of data center chips. It's all the stuff around the periphery that they've got. They're in a lot of different businesses. They have a lot of different groups. They're cutting a bunch of those out. So it's really a question of refocusing on what they do well and kind of jettisoning the rest of the stuff, and then just you just got to put the pedal to the metal and try to get to where you were 4 or 5 years ago.
Right. Yeah, some fascinating stuff there. I think you don't really think about like these big companies that have to get to that point, but it sounds like they've got a lot of work to do.
Well, they're not alone. I mean, we went through this with IBM, right? We went through this with a lot of big companies. It's not unusual.
Yeah.
When you get big, you think you're invincible, and guess what? You're not.
There's always these other companies that are hungrier, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. I want to switch gears a little bit. So the other big news of the week from the tech world was Meta. They had their big Connect 2024 event last week. And so here's what we got from them. So Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg took the stage last week with a new style and demonstrated new features, including live translation between English and Spanish. And then there's a whole bunch of other things. The biggest ones were these Orion AR glasses. Meta revealed its Orion augmented reality glasses, and they look almost like a trendy pair of frames you could pick up without all the tech inside.
Yeah, Keith, they look like your glasses.
They look like, I wish they were. I wish these had more technology. Like, could you pick an uglier set of glasses right now?
I didn't know glasses could get that thick of a frame and still look trendy.
Well, it's all the stuff that's inside of it, right? So Orion uses micro LED projectors inside the frame and beams images in front of your eyes via waveguides in the lenses. Orion has the same kinds of generative AI capabilities as their current Ray-Ban smart glasses, but adds a visual element to make it more helpful, like adding labels on top of ingredients you're looking at on a table. The glasses pair with a wireless compute puck and a neural wristband that you're going to wear. So now, great. So now you're going to have to wear glasses and a wristband. And apparently the wristband will then respond to gestures like punches. Orion is not quite ready as a product though, so it isn't going on sale. That's the big announcement, is that it's only going to be available for developers, which is similar to I think what Snap did a couple weeks ago too. They had a pair of glasses, and they were only allowing for developers. Chris, what are you doing with the screen here?
Oh, I'm just looking at the comments.
Because we've got more stuff from Meta. Go back up. Go back up.
Yeah, sure,
Go back up.
Sure.
All right. So the other thing that they announced was a cheaper Quest 3S VR headset. Their VR headset is now called the Quest 3S, and it's launching at the Quest 2's original price, starting price of $299.99. The new headset has many of the same features as the more expensive Quest 3, including the same Snapdragon XR2 Gen 2 chip, and uses the same Touch Plus controllers. The lower price point is possible thanks to the Quest 3S's lack of depth sensor, lower resolution screens, narrower field of view, and less compact package. And basically with this now, Meta is going to simplify its VR lineup by discontinuing the Quest 2 and Quest Pro. So I'm actually happy I didn't buy a Quest 2 last year. They also added new features for their Ray-Ban sunglasses, which it's getting a lot of traction. People really seem to like those sunglasses. That's a little less thicker than the black ones, Chris, right there.
It looks like it, yeah.
New software updates basically add a reminders feature that can help you keep track of your day, like remembering your grocery list. There are also improvements to Meta AI responsiveness, and the company is working on real-time speech translation. On the hardware front, Meta is launching new styles like a transparent frame and a new range of transition lenses. And then they also announced a bunch of AI stuff, which I just think is goofy because remember those celebrity voices they had last year, or the celebrity like little avatars of like Tom Brady was one. I think they had Mr. Beast. There was a bunch. So now the AI images are going to be basically featuring you, the user / product for Meta. So your Facebook and Instagram feeds will include Meta AI generated content based on your interests or current trends in a section called Imagined for You. It can incorporate your face into made up scenarios like, quote, an enchanted realm. And you can do things like imagine yourself as a video game character or astronaut. This feature is a test for now. And then they've now discontinued the other celebrity stuff, but they're now adding more celebrity voices. With AI versions of celebrities, including Awkwafina, John Cena, Keegan-Michael Key, Kristen Bell, and Dame Judi Dench. So again, they're just spending more money on celebrity stuff that nobody will probably end up using. Jack, let's start at the beginning with the AR VR stuff. Do you think we're headed towards a world where it's going to be glasses and like the ski goggle headsets are going to go away at some point?
Oh, we have to be. I mean, remember 3D TV? It was supposed to take over the world.
Yeah, I'm still not using a 3D TV.
Stereoscopic 3D.
Yeah, I mean, who's going to wear those crazy goggles, right? I mean, it's just not going to happen. So until we get to a point where we have non-intrusive technology around us, why are phones so popular? Because they're basically non-intrusive. You put it in your pocket, you get it out when you need it. It's not hurting you. It's not doing anything to you. That's not the case today with AR, VR. And so that's number one. Number two is there's also a real lack of, why do I need this thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a gamer. Okay. If you're a gamer and you want to put this thing on for 4 hours a day, one, you won't be able to see when you take them off. You might be an epileptic by the time you take it off.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of medical issues around these things, which I'm surprised haven't resulted in a whole bunch of lawsuits yet. But, we're probably going to get to that as well. But number two is, what's the solution? What are you trying to solve that I can't already do?
Well, I think what they're trying to do is provide internet access or information to someone through the use of a visual medium or physical device, such as the glasses, rather than having to grab something in your phone and then look down on it. So again, I think that the killer applications for me would be, hey, I don't want to grab my phone when I'm walking around a city. I just want directions and then have them pop up on the screen somewhere, or give me an arrow on the ground that I can follow to get to my restaurant, type of a thing. Almost little apps. I think they said the text will appear on the menu for, or the recipe that you're making. Things like that, so that you don't have to grab your phone. I was reading some articles about the popularity of the Ray-Ban sunglasses. And most people just said what they love about those sunglasses is they just wanted to have a camera to record stuff on the glasses. So I think there was an anecdote of someone who is an influencer. Sadly, I hate that term, but the guy makes videos where he goes up to people on the street and asks them questions. And so if you do that now, you have to basically point a phone at them while you're interviewing them. And with this, you can just say, hey, can I record you? Push a button and then talk, and then you've recorded the video. So I think things like that, where you're just recording things. And again, there's a whole privacy issue because, if everyone has these glasses and you don't know if you're being recorded, you should also always assume whenever you're out that you're being recorded anyway. But I think that's going to be some of the use cases for these versus, and if you don't mind just taking out your phone, if you're, at a tourist site, obviously, and, if you want to take video that way, it's just eliminating the whole need to go into the phone and do it.
Yeah, but that just makes it into a remote camera, right? So what do I need all this processing power for? Why do I need the glasses connected to 5G? Why do I need them to have high resolution imaging? I mean, but see, that's the issue, right? If what you're looking for, and by the way, I agree with you. I mean, I wear glasses, and if you could project on my glasses when I'm walking down the street how to get to the restaurant or the hotel or to meet Chris for a beer, that's great. I'm happy with that. But that's not where they're going with this thing right now. They're trying to be high end. They're looking for 3D. They're looking for the capabilities of attaching to Facebook because at the end of the day, that's what Meta wants, right? And I haven't seen a real model yet where you're going to get mass adoption. Yes, there'll be, I don't want to say fringe. I'm not talking about people, but there'll be a small contingent, if you will, of people who want this tech. But for the masses, the only reason the phones are got acquired by everyone is because they were easy to use and non-intrusive.
Right. So I'm wondering. Well, do you think that people want the world to go from the smartphone to wearables, glasses, things like that, or is it just seem like it's more of an enhancement at this point? It's just. I'm still getting, if I invest in a pair of these, I'm not giving up my smartphone. You can't.
I won't. It can't do the same thing that your phone does.
Right. And it's just more of a well, now I don't have to film anything. I don't have to, go into my pocket and then if I want to film something. I like the idea of just walking down the street and then if I see a celebrity, I can then record that celebrity while I'm walking past them because I would never have enough time to do that with a regular phone. Or
you see an accident or, something, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
But what are you willing to pay to be able to do that?
$300. It's probably,
That's you.
Yeah.
I would bet you if you ask people on the street how much they'd be willing to pay for that, it'd be a lot less.
Well, maybe these glasses makers, do something where they do a deal with the carrier and they hide the price of the device into the monthly payments. That's how the new iPhone is still like $800 to $1,000. You just don't realize it because most of the carriers are like, yeah, we're gonna give you we'll give you the phone for free. And then when you read the small print, it's like, yeah, because we've taken the cost of the phone and buried it under 4 years of monthly payments, right?
Yeah. Well, so Keith,
that's another reason why phones are so popular, Jack, is because they've hidden the cost of it.
That's true.
Yeah.
All true. It's not just the cost. I mean, people would buy them even if they were $1,000. You can't live today without a smartphone. I mean, you really can't.
Yeah, but initially, I don't think that the popularity of the smartphone took off until people realized that, I can finally afford this because I don't realize how much I'm paying for it. I think that's, they never did that in the computer industry or as far as I can remember.
So there's two pieces to that. Number one is that you're right. That's true. They were kind of subsidizing the cost of the thing, but they also really didn't take off until we got decent carrier networks.
Right.
The early phones.
Once you got to 3G. And with Apple, at least, once you were able to then have more apps than just the ones that Apple gave you,
right?
When they opened it up, when they opened up the App Store, that's when everything really took off.
That's right. That's right. So the same thing. I think the same thing's going to happen with the AR/VR headsets. It's going to be, what do I use this for that I can't live without?
Right. So
go ahead. Or you've got to just, I'm getting glasses anyway because of my vision, right? I got to get them every year. Give me an option where I can get one of these frames with my prescription lenses at a very reasonable cost.
Yeah. Do you think that they would then team up with companies that make glasses? I mean, they've already got a relationship with Ray-Ban. So but then do you see them how the phone makers would go to the carriers Do you see them going to national chains of places that make glasses? I just think that market is so, like, I get my glasses from my eye doctor, so it's so far dispersed. I don't know if they're gonna have. It's not like you can only go to 5 carriers basically, or 3 carriers.
That's right. You can't. Yeah. There's thousands of suppliers. That's the problem.
Yeah. So maybe they won't do it. I would like the ability to then, buy some of these glasses and then get my prescription on it too. That would be helpful. As long as that doesn't cost me $1,000.
I think we'll get there.
Yeah.
I think you'll get there.
Okay.
I mean, there are some big distributors. Go to the online guys like a Zenni.
Yeah.
Where they're selling, I don't know what their numbers are, but they're big. So that's certainly a possibility where you could get prescription eyeglasses with, the AR VR headset.
Right. Okay. So again, this is all prototypes, and I think Snap was working on a prototype, so this isn't even available for us to discuss.
And I think it's important to note that they're doing the right thing by only giving it to developers at this point, because they understand that until I have solutions to a real problem, they're still looking. That's what developers are going to give me. They're not going to sell.
Yeah, they're still looking for that killer app, and they haven't found it yet.
Yeah.
Or then they're hoping that someone somewhere is going to be like, oh, I could finally use this for this, and and then all of a sudden it takes off. Any thoughts on the AI stuff, or is it just feels goofy to me? And again, we had this discussion last week with the whole Meta versus Apple, and Meta is always the run fast and break things kind of mentality. Right. Like, just throw it against the wall, see if it sticks, and then if it doesn't, we'll just cancel it in a year. And they've got so much money because of Facebook and Instagram that it doesn't matter if they blow $1 billion on this stuff, right?
Yeah. It's petty cash.
Yeah. I'm a little, I'm already annoyed by AI artwork in my regular life that I don't need now to see it in my Instagram feed. Even the stuff that they've integrated where they've added the AI buttons to your Facebook posts, or, when you're reading someone's feed and they're like, oh, tell me more about this. I don't hit that button at all. It's like, no, this is just stupid. And so the last thing I want to see is me as an astronaut. Sorry.
Right. The one thing that's useful is the translation service.
Okay.
That's clearly useful.
Yeah.
But that's not, relatively speaking, that's a relatively easy thing to do with AI.
Yeah.
Right. And it's all the peripheral art stuff that, like, I don't know. Do you need to, put a poop emoji on your screen? How many people bought into that, right?
Jack, in all of my years in working with you, I've never thought that I would hear you actually say poop emoji on a show. This is where we've gotten to with this podcast. Congratulations. All right, I'm going to jump now. Since we've been talking about AI and stuff, let's go to our next topic. There were 3 stories last week around OpenAI. So the first thing was some pretty big news. They're working on a plan to restructure its core business into a for-profit benefit corporation that will no longer be controlled by its nonprofit board. People familiar with the matter told Reuters, in a move that will make the company more attractive to investors. The OpenAI nonprofit will continue to exist and own a minority stake in the for-profit company, the sources said. The move could also have implications for how the company manages AI risks in a new governance structure. Chief Executive Sam Altman will also receive equity for the first time in the for-profit company, which could be worth $150 billion after the restructuring, as it also tries to remove the cap on returns for investors. The sources requested anonymity to protect private matters. Quote, we remain focused on building AI that benefits everyone, and we're working with our board to ensure that we're best positioned to succeed in our mission, an OpenAI spokesperson said. The details of the proposed corporate structure, first reported by Reuters, highlight significant governance changes happening behind the scenes at one of the most important AI companies. The plan is still being hashed out with lawyers and shareholders, and the timeline for completing the restructuring remains uncertain. Now, at the same time, the second story was that OpenAI CTO Mira Murati is leaving the company. She basically wrote a post on X that said, I'm stepping away because I want to create the time and space to do my own exploration. For now, my primary focus is doing everything in my power to ensure a smooth transition and maintaining the momentum we've built. And this departure comes almost a year after that whole boardroom coup with Sam Altman leaving Murati as the temporary leader. In her 6-year tenure, she was responsible for the launch of ChatGPT and their text-to-image generator, DALL-E. So that's the second story. We'll pause on that. We'll get to the third story later, but this sounds like this is now Sam Altman's company, basically, moving forward. And any pretenses about them trying to be a nonprofit and, doing all of this work for the good of humanity, that's all going out the window. So you might start seeing some pricing changes as well for a lot of these services, right?
Yeah, look, the bottom line to all of this, if you read between the lines, they've got a lot of investors, big companies, Microsoft, small investors, banks, all kinds of, VCs and stuff over the years. I don't know what the number is. It's a big, big, big number. And all of these guys are basically saying, look, we've been really patient. We want some return. Where's the return?
Yeah. It's hard to get
really
that much money. Yeah. And then be altruistic here and benefiting humanity.
And from the perspective of the various folks that are in that company, I don't know what they were getting paid. I'm sure Altman was getting a good salary. But at the end of the day, they can go out and found an AI company for a for-profit AI company and probably walk away with, I don't know, $1 billion in their pocket when they do an IPO.
And I think, you see companies I think Anthropic was also founded by a bunch of former OpenAI people as well, if I'm not mistaken. So you're already seeing that. So I guess maybe now it finally does make sense to just kind of just shed that the pretense of being, a nonprofit and say, no, we're going to try to make money off of this thing.
Well, what they did successfully as a nonprofit is they got AI much more visible to people than they would have any other way. If it was a small startup, it probably wouldn't have happened. As a nonprofit, they can say, we're doing this for the benefit of mankind. Okay, fine. But at least they got visibility doing that. And so that was not a bad strategy for them. But it's changed. AI is not, it is what it was. People are trying to make money. They are making money with it now. Microsoft, AWS, C3. There's a bunch of different companies out there. There's a bunch of chip companies. NVIDIA's making a ton of money on AI for sure.
Right.
So I think these guys are just saying it's time.
Yeah. Do you still think that they're the leaders in the clubhouse in terms of they're the biggest company right now or the best company? I guess bigger and best are two different words here.
Yeah, I don't think you can look at one and say one's better than the other.
Yeah.
ChatGPT, OpenAI does one thing. Meta with Llama does something better in another area. There's Anthropic. There's a bunch of folks. There's Claude, that's being used for a bunch of folks. AWS is doing their own thing, but it's optimized to their environment.
Right.
So it really is going to be. These aren't really general purpose tools per se. They're optimized for different kinds of workflows and workloads.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to say, it's like saying which is the best database out there. Well, it depends on what you're trying to do.
Right. Well, do you also think there might be some consolidation in this space, or are we going to start seeing even more AI companies come out in that general GPT sense of having a model and having an interface on top of that model? Because
I definitely think you're going to see consolidation. There's really probably no more. There's probably not room for more than 2, 3, 4 big companies. Just like every other market we're in.
Right.
How many chip companies are there out there?
Right.
How many PC companies are there out there? When the PCs first started, there were dozens. The same thing is going to happen here. Scale is. You need scale to be good.
Right.
And you can't have 100 companies with 3 people using their stuff.
Yep.
You got to have 3 companies with 1 million people each, or tens of millions of people using their stuff.
All right. Then there's one more OpenAI related story that I wanted to ask your opinion on. So Jony Ive has confirmed his involvement with OpenAI, and this is on the hardware side. So former Apple Chief Design Officer Jony Ive has officially confirmed his involvement in an artificial intelligence hardware project with OpenAI CEO Sam Altman. The confirmation appeared in a profile of the designer by the New York Times, putting to rest speculation that began nearly a year ago about a potential collaboration between these two figures. The AI hardware venture is reportedly being funded by Ive and the Emerson Collective, a company founded by Lawrence Powell Jobs, Laureen Powell Jobs, who is, I think, Steve Jobs' widow, correct, Jack? Yeah. And according to the report, the project could secure up to $1 billion in funding by the end of the year, signaling significant investor interest in the endeavor. Despite the high-profile leadership, the project is still in its early stages with only 10 employees currently on board. However, the team includes notable Apple designers Tang Tan and Evans Hankey, both of whom worked closely with Ive on the iPhone. Ive's design firm, Love From, is spearheading the device's design process. The collaboration between Ive and Altman reportedly stemmed from discussions about the potential for generative AI to enable new types of computing devices. The technology's ability to handle complex requests is seen as a key factor in creating novel user experiences that go beyond traditional software capabilities. I think we talked about this. It might have been with you, Jack. It may have been with another guest co-host at some point when that rumor first started appearing. I think Jony Ive is seen as, one of these gurus when it comes to product design and product look and feel. Would the iPhone have been as popular if he wasn't involved, at least in the early stages? He probably had his hands on some other products, not just the iPhone, probably iPod and some of those earlier products too. But their big hurdle is going to be the same kind of hurdle that everybody looking in this space. We saw some early AI-only devices, the Rabbit and the Task something?
The little tile thing, the little square.
Yeah, it was like the little badge, and both of those companies flamed out. I mean, I don't know if the companies flamed out, but the products were not received well after a bunch of hype, and then they just didn't work. So is that going to turn off people, or is it the same kind of problem that they have that the AR VR people have? Like, what's the killer app, right, Jack?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. So first of all, with Jony Ive being involved, whatever comes out is going to be pretty slick. I mean, he's a great designer. So, but I could see them concentrating on specific areas. So, what if it's a medical device where there are a lot of, I hate to say this, there are a lot of really sick people out there. I don't mean mentally, right? I mean the physically there are problems. And if you could come up with a device that monitors everybody's heartbeat effectively and tells you if there's a problem. The watches just don't do that very well. They claim they do, but they don't. Diabetics, epileptics. I mean, there's a ton of stuff that we could, senior citizens, right? How many people we're living to be 90, 95, 100 now, and people have lots of problems. So if you could come up with an AI-powered device that really does do health checks, that would be very popular. So it's really going to be a question of what is it that they can come up with that actually puts in the right kinds of sensors and the right kinds of outputs that I'm going to be willing to spend whatever, $10 a month on or $20 or $30 a month on to get me what I need.
Do you think that they would do a specific, almost vertically focused device versus something that's aimed at a general audience and a general consumer? I never even thought of that. Like, I was just assuming they were going to come out with a mass-produced, something that we've never seen before. I just don't know what it was, but more of a consumer electronics piece rather than something specific. That healthcare case is pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I don't know what the numbers are anymore, but I think I just saw something where one of the drug companies is making $10 billion a year profit on Wegovy.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I mean, that's a pretty attractive, if you can come up with something like that, that's a pretty attractive marketplace.
Yeah. Or, what if there was like a thin patch that you could just put on the back of your neck or the side of your face, and then all of a sudden it's a sensor driven thing that gives you all of the health data that you need. That's kind of interesting. Without actually having to put a chip in your head.
Well, they're going to come out with a tricorder.
That's the other thing too, right? Well, yeah. I mean, I was thinking about that, like the Star Trek tricorder, but like you have that in your phone. In theory, you could just put everything like that.
Really.
Okay, so what's different between putting a lot of this information on a phone versus a specific device that looks like a tricorder from Star Trek?
Because it's all about the sensors, right? What are you able to sense with your phone?
Okay.
We talk. There's ultrasonic sensors. There's literally radar sensors, the acoustic sensors. So if you can come up with the right sensors that can actually not get into your body, but sense what's going on inside your body, that's very different than what you get with your phone. Your phone is really just a screen, it has a compute engine in it,
Right.
but it's only as good as the data you're able to feed it.
Right. Right.
The advantage of a tricorder was the sensors. It was actually able to look inside and see what was going on in your body.
Well, really, the tricorder was just a plot device, and so you could put whatever sensors you needed, for that particular story.
Sure.
Which is why no one's ever actually built a real tricorder, or something that works. Chris, do you have any thoughts? You think they're going to go broad, or you think they're going to go specific into an industry?
I think we need to make something like the tricorder.
There we go.
We got to patent it.
All right. All we need is $3 billion. All right.
Well, by the way, just one quick thought.
Yeah.
A lot of the sensors that we're putting on, we're working on for automatic cars or
self-driving cars,
autonomous cars.
Yeah.
Can be used for us. Can be used for monitoring people.
I don't mean that autonomous.
negatively. I mean, monitoring stuff that's going on in our bodies. So it's out there. I mean, the reason the AR, VR headsets you talk about the camera, the reason that's practical is because we make 5 billion little tiny cameras every year for phones.
Right. And
really
the reason that autonomous cars can be developed, or at least that they're trying to, is because what is it? There was something about LiDAR that drove the cost down, and I think it was either the cars were driving the cost of LiDAR down, or you could use it in cars because the cost was coming down because of the phones and the cameras. There is a correlation between those two somewhere.
Volume always reduces cost.
Yeah. All right, Jack. Again, thanks again for being on the show with us this week. A lot of stuff to digest and unpack, and I appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks for having me. Always good to be here.
All right, that's all the time we have for today's episode. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and any thoughts you have below. Join us every week for new episodes of Today in Tech. I'm Keith Shaw. Thanks for watching.